sitting next to you. Yeah, baby. Hey, beautiful, how you feeling tonight? In a crowd, you're the only one inside. And me and my brothers are feeling alright. Know this night is gonna turn out fine. So come here, baby.
Yeah. All right. Give it up for Brothers Gal. The boys from SD. Wish they're still playing music, but, you know. That's how it goes. Anyway. I'm sitting here laughing my ass off right now. I've put together a couple of shows here about the last year. And then I started to do a little bit of thinking about it. And what it kind of comes down to is this, is that I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat 2021 like yesterday, you know, like it didn't happen, and like tomorrow, because tomorrow didn't happen either, or it already has happened. It doesn't really matter. I was just looking through all these notes about, like, you know, names and this and that, and what went on this whole last year, and then the idea that all of a sudden, because of one date comes up, that all of a sudden we're going to lump these things into this one category, right? I just want to take all this bullshit that happened in 21, and we're going to just compartmentalize it, and it's going to go here, and then we're going to just keep on revisiting it. And I mean, I heard something as ridiculous tonight as what's that Mr. Potato Head guy from CNN? He looks like a fucking retarded George Costanza. What the fuck is his name? Oh yeah, Stelter. That's it. And he had a couple other potato heads on there with him, and they were talking about how they had, you know, all these people from the media had PTSD from January 6th. Okay, really? The only person that died violently was the female that was shot. The cop that died. I mean, he had a heart problem. In the meantime, all the people that have been arrested, they're all sitting in D.C. I don't know if you call it county jail or what in D.C., since D.C. isn't a state. So I do know one thing. Having been locked up with a bunch of cats that came from out there, and hearing the horror stories I heard about that place, it ain't good. And them dudes have been in there for a long time now. I mean, a long time. And from what I understand, they've been very, very mistreated. They've been denied basic hygiene. If they want to contact their attorneys, they get thrown in the shoe for 2 weeks, solitary quarantine. When Republican members of Congress wanted to go in and check out the conditions, apparently from what I understand, there's one part of the joint where they're keeping these guys that were involved in the quote unquote insurrection. And so it sounds like they're already segregated, but what they did was they ran the politicians into the other section of the building to give them time to go clean up some of the mold and shit like that. I heard it's really nasty. I mean, these dudes they're not even getting razors, and it sounds like they've been just, I don't know, treated pretty badly. I don't support what happened. I mean, I think there's a better way to go about it, but what I want you to do is, if you have any interest in this whatsoever, do me a favor and hit me back in the comments on this. But look up a man named Ray Epps, EPPS, Ray Epps. I'd like you to look him up. He's an interesting character in this whole thing. He's a very interesting character. And the fact that he's free and that he's rolling around on his property out in Arizona. He has a 5-acre ranch down there that him and his wife bought some time ago. They weren't making it in the grass-fed beef and farming space, so they decided to create like a wedding facility, right? Like the place where, you know, if you're a dude and you're getting married, like you gotta spend like all your life savings to take like, you know, your old lady and all her family and everybody out there to have a great time. You know, you gotta go drop, you know, 30, 40 grand over a wedding, which is the stupidest thing in the world. It's something I will never, ever, 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 ever do again. Not ever. Not ever. I mean, how dumb is that? Wedding, I mean, you know, how much money do people waste on a wedding? And it's for what? So the female and her little bridesmaids can just, you know, get drunk and stupid and then pass out and you know, hook up with the grooms and the groomsmen. They show up. I mean, I've been on that end of it where I got to go slap on a tux. And I used to just get hammered. You get hammered and you chase around the bridesmaids. And it's all on the dime of your buddy, you know. I mean, that's a down payment on a house. It's you know, most of the time you're talking about people, you know, getting married. They come out of college, so now, you know, you got two people. They're $2,000 to $400,000 in debt, and they're going to go dump $40,000 on a wedding. Everything just has to be perfect. The dresses and oh my goodness. I mean, the colors have got to be just right. The invitations, the rehearsal dinner. Ugh. How silly. How fucking silly. Anywho, I don't even know how I got off on that tangent. But I was just looking at all this this 2021 shit. And I mean, you know, I'm going to mention a few names here. I mean, I bet you a lot of, I mean, these are names that like set people the fuck off, right? And I bet a lot of you don't even know the names. I mean, you know, when we start talking about names like Rittenhouse, Jacob Blake, Robert Malone, and there's just so many of these names. Derek Chauvin, right? I mean, you know, that guy, whatever. Let me get off on that. I had a whole list of these names here that I'd written down that were names I think that have probably just slipped by the wayside with a lot of people. And probably for the better. I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm going to sit here and keep looking at all this bullshit. I mean, you know, the things that I think about, number one, I think about homelessness. Oh, there we go. That's nice. Yeah. I think about the homeless issue. That bothers me. It bothers me a lot. The fact that we can just make up and fabricate all this money to go to all these special interest groups and to fund all this bullshit. And we've got this bozo leading the way. He's not leading the way. He's basically falling up the stairs. I mean, that should have been a prime indication. I guess that's one of the memories that I'll have of 2021 is I've never seen anybody fall up the stairs before, but by God. Come on, man. Come on, fat. Let's have a push-up contest. How about you have a falling up the stairs contest? I mean, this guy, I mean, you want to talk about an arrogant idiot. I mean, this dude, I mean, if there is a God, I mean, he crammed his brains in with a used toilet plunger. You know, with that shit water still in there. I mean, this guy. I mean, did anybody remember this? Let's play a little caption from Brandon here. Come on, Brandon, where you at? Let's bring up Brandon. Let's see if I can get this to come through.
Not pull us apart. I'll put in place a plan to deal with this pandemic responsibly. I've already done it. And bring this country together around testing, tracing, and masking. It's estimated by the leading doctors in America, including Trump's own director of the CDC and Dr. Fauci. They called for a mask mandate last week. If we just wore a mask over the next few months, we could save 100,000 projected deaths, 100,000 lives. We're expected to lose another 200,000 people between now and the end of this year if we do nothing. This is not a political statement. It's a patriotic duty, for God's sake. But still, Trump refuses to listen to the science. And we shouldn't be politicizing the race for a vaccine either. We should be planning its safe and equitable and free distribution, providing the funding for PPE, the mask, and everything we need to protect ourselves, setting the national standard for schools and businesses to reopen, bringing together Republicans and Democrats to deliver the economic relief that's already been passed in the House of Representatives, for working families, the unemployed, for schools, for businesses, allowing you to stay in your home, but you don't have the money for rent, allowing you to stay in your home. 20 million people are on the cliff of losing their home for next month's mortgage payment. I've said it before. I'm not going to shut down the economy. I'm not going to shut down the country, but I'm going to shut down the virus.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
But it doesn't seem like it's worked out very well at all. I don't know if you guys remember that. But he effectively shut down the economy.
Biden begs for help. That's the subject of tonight's Waters Words. Do you believe in karma?
I
do.
Or whatever
what goes around comes around. We've all seen bad people do bad things. They get away with it for a while, don't they? But sooner or later.
Have you looked at the symptoms of it? They've falsified these numbers. Okay, Fauci, he came out and had to admit to it that he falsified the numbers. That the numbers of children have been falsified. We all know that throughout this whole thing, that kids have largely remained asymptomatic while they may carry it. Okay. Now, let's look at this. Okay, let's look at this. Let's try and incorporate a little bit of logic into this. Okay, if a child gets this thing, is asymptomatic, nobody knows. Okay? What happens to that child? That child develops natural immunity. So what is the future of humanity? It's our children, right? I mean, this is just common sense speaking here. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm fucking wrong. Okay? Because everybody out there who I'm speaking to right now who has kids, you understand that there came a point in time where you didn't necessarily matter so much. And there became something more important to you, right? So if my son can get this, and I'm sure he probably already has. I can think of a couple times he's been sick, and I would venture to guess that that's, in fact, what he had. Now, we did a test a while back, and he didn't have it, and I didn't test positive for it either. Can't even do a test now. There's no test. And, I mean, really at this point, who cares? I mean, from what I understand, I mean, the Omicron, you have a 0.89% chance of being hospitalized if you aren't vaccinated. That's under 1%. And these jerk-offs are politicizing this whole fucking thing. And they're saying that, oh, hospital beds are being filled up. The hospital beds have been filled up. And you know, I mean, the reason there's probably an issue in hospitals in big cities is because people are getting fired because they won't get the jab. You know, and you're talking about healthcare officials, healthcare, you know, people that have been in these hospitals and have been exposed to it, have gotten COVID, and have the immunity, the natural immunity, which science has proven is better than what you get with the vaccine. Now, the vaccine, it's leaky. It's not going to keep you from getting COVID. It's not. This has been proven. Everybody is going to get it. It's going to turn into an endemic with this Omicron variant. And it's going to be something we're forced to live with. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to pit us against one another with these stupid vaccines. I mean, why in the world go get yourself, then they're saying, oh, well, if you get the vaccine, then it won't hit you as hard. What? Okay, you want to get it, get it. Go for it. I don't care. I ain't going to come down on you. I don't care. I mean, Ricardo has had the vaccine. You know what? And I understand why he did it. He's got little kids. His wife was pregnant. I mean, had I been in that scenario, I think I probably would have done the same thing. And I know a lot of people that are older and not in the best health. And hey, that's great. It's not my call. And it's definitely not this geriatric mushhead's call to tell you you're going to lose your fucking job. And then he comes out the other day and they ask him about the solution. And he says, well, there is no federal solution. It's up to the states now. So you got a guy like DeSantis, right? They've kept it running. He's kept it going. DeSantis is either going to be on a ticket by himself or on the main ticket as a presidential candidate in 24, or he's going to be running with Trump. One way or another, he's going to be in the White House one way or another. Now, from what I've seen, I'd be all about that guy. I mean, straight up. I mean, that dude's no bullshit. You know, not that I see. He's been in DC. He's been on Capitol Hill before. He knows the score, and and the dude is fearless. He doesn't care, and he's looking out. You know, he is the commander in chief, basically, of his state of Florida, America's Wang, which is what I like to call it. Homer Simpson called it that back in the day. But I mean, this dude has, he's effectively, he's done a pretty goddamn good job. And then to talk about these numbers of the Omicron, or the unicorn, as we'll call it. Yeah, this is what happens, okay? Robert Malone was the doctor that came up with the mRNA. The mRNA technology, okay? He's been shut off from Twitter saying he's an anti-vaxxer. This is the man that came up with the technology, mind you. Okay, let's keep that in mind. The man that came up with the technology for the vaccine has been canceled off Twitter because he's an anti-vaxxer. They don't want you to hear what he has to say. And what he has to say is this. He says it's a leaky vaccine. He said he's not anti-vaccine, but he said if you have natural immunity, why worry about it, right? And the other thing that he said is that this is the typical path of a virus, is that they start off like this one did. And, I mean, yeah, there's the numbers on everything. I can't put much behind the statistics on this thing. You can talk percentages and this and that and the other thing. And granted, I threw out some percentages here and there, but when you're talking about a percentage, right? So let's say 1 in a million children perished from COVID-19 last year. Let's say this year 2 children perished from COVID-19. And you can prove that it was COVID-19. That it wasn't a car accident like what happened to a family, I believe it was in Texas, where there was a car accident and the boy obviously was killed in the car accident. And on the UCOD, they wrote it up as COVID-19. Okay, so you gotta indisputably prove it. So let's say we go from 1 in 2021 in a million, and in 2022 you have 2. Okay, the media is going to come out and say that that's 100% increase. This is what they do with numbers. They conflate them. They marginalize. They take the numbers and they use them to play on your emotions. And don't tell me that they don't have mathematicians and stuff that are manipulating these numbers. They've got statisticians. They can take these numbers and they can use them that way, and they can say that because in reality, okay, if it was 1 in a million one year and 2 in a million the next year, then technically, it doubled, right? But in context to the end number, right? I mean, we're talking that stupid cat. He's out there just bawling. We're not talking about, oh God, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna throw that cat outside. All you cat lovers out there, sorry. Shut up. Get out of here. Get out of here. Good grief. I've never seen such a worthless animal in my life. I never thought I'd have a stupid cat. Here I am stuck with a stupid cat. That thing, he goes out there and tears the shit out of birds and rabbits and everything else out on God's green earth. And he comes in and starts bawling. And everybody comes, oh, he's crying. No, he's not. Like, you ever seen that? If you've seen him eat the head out of a rabbit when the rabbit's still alive and kicking, and he's doing it right on your living room floor when you come back from dinner or whatever, it's just like, oh my God. Anyway, I digress. We're talking about statistics, right? So let's say my cat last year kills 1 out of 1,000 rabbits. This year he kills 2. And I come out and say, well, the number went up by 100%. Sure it did. You can say that. And and you can't argue it, but in context, in looking at the big picture, is that really a statistic to concern yourself with if you're in the rabbit population around my house? No, I think the number is probably a lot higher than that for the rabbits, anyhow. And Fauci had to come back. He had to backtrack on his his proclamations on the children being hospitalized. And you watch these jackasses on the media just talking about, the children. I mean, kids are going to get hospitalized. You know why? Kids break bones. They fall off shit. They get, other kinds of illnesses. They have all sorts of things happen to them. I mean, trust me. I've been raising one for a long time now. The things that we've had to go to urgent care for sometimes are just like, what in the... getting erasers pulled out of ears and shit. A kid sitting here doing this. Sitting there in class like this. Break that off. That's a $300 trip to the fucking emergency room. And we're going to write that up to the unicorn? Come on. That's stupidity. So you look back on 2021, and it's still going on. We're going to live with this thing, people. We're going to live with it. We're going to have to. It's going to be endemic, and it's just going to be the way it is. So, I'm not necessarily looking at this as a blessing. I'm not saying go out and have like our parents used to do with the fucking chicken pox parties. I'm not saying do that. And Robert Malone said don't do that as well, and I agree with him. Don't try to go out and get the thing. But guess what? Everybody's going to get it. And wearing these stupid fucking masks isn't going to do a thing, because I've already talked about this. The virus is 120 nanometers, okay? That's the number on that. Now, let me back up and make sure that, okay, now 120 nanometers, and the N95 pore size is 300 nanometers, okay? I saw a video of Biden wandering around with that new dog of his out on the beach this week. There's no one around him except the fucking stupid camera. The camera's probably 25, 30 yards away from him. He's playing with the dog, walking with his wife. His wife has got no mask on. He's all masked up. He did a video conference with world leaders on his computer, and he's wearing that fucking mask. I mean, no, none of the other world leaders were wearing masks. I mean, you know, you see him all the time. I mean, there's been videos of him, he's coughing all over himself, and he's shaking people's hands. And you know, I saw one where he's getting ready to come on the stage in the White House, and he's if you're looking at the stage, he'd be on the left side where they come out, and he's standing there, and he's not got a mask on, and he's surrounded by his staff and everything. Well, as soon as it becomes time for him to come out, boy, he real quick puts that on right before he walks out, and from the camera angle, you're looking right there, and you can see it. I mean, talk about theater. The dude is just all theater, and you know, and like I've said to you, president, no president, I'd rather not even have one, to tell you the truth. Why do we need one? That's my point. Why? What do they do? Give us something to talk about? Are our lives really that fucking... I mean, that's something to think about right there. And I guess I might have to do some self-reflection on that as well, because is life really that fucking boring that I got to sit here and I got to fucking concentrate and focus on this fucking guy? The problem is that it affects us all. And that's my issue. I would much rather not talk about these things. However, I do see these things as issues that they control our lives. And they're tyrannical, and these are things that are taking away our freedoms. These are things that are dividing us as a country. They're dividing us racially. They're dividing us by religions. They're dividing us by who had the jab, who didn't have the jab. Did you get 2 jabs? Did you get 3? Have you had your 4th jab? I mean, how fucking stupid is that? If you've had the jab and you think that it works, then hey, awesome. Why be concerned about anybody else? And they say that if you did have the jab, you're just as likely to be shedding the virus to others as if you didn't have the jab, and that if you did get the jab, that you could still get sick, and people have but still got sick. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Lloyd Austin came out Sunday. Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, right? Mr. Raytheon, ex-general, now the Secretary of Defense. How many bodies do you think he's got on him? He comes out Sunday. He tests positive. He gets off the plane. He is wearing a fucking, like a welder's fucking face mask, and then a regular mask. And he's walking down the line, and he's fist bumping the dudes in the military that are standing there saluting him. Now, are you telling me he didn't? Did he wash his hands off with hand sanitizer when he got off that plane? Was he wearing that hockey mask or whatever the fuck it was the whole time he was on that plane with the mask? Hell no. That plane landed, taxied up to where they were going to drop him off. He walked up to where no one could see him from the outside, and one of his staffers handed him the mask and then handed him the face shield. And he walked off there like he was fucking, from Dexter or some shit. And he goes and he's fist bumping those dudes. Come on. You tell me that guy wasn't fiddling and messing around with this? I mean, and he said he's experiencing like minor flu-like symptoms. And he's an older gentleman. I'm not sure how old Lloyd Austin is, but he's certainly in his 60s, and he might be pushing 70. I'm not sure. I haven't looked up his age. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy shit. And I just sent off last night I sent off a letter to the editor at the Chicago Sun-Times, because I'd happened to seen a letter somebody else had sent in there talking about how we're living in dark times because Kyle Rittenhouse showed up at a Turning Point America, Charlie Kirk's organization. He came out and he was getting cheered, and you show up and you got thousands of people cheering you. You're gonna go, yeah. I mean, what do they expect? The kid's going to show up at a DNC fucking rally? No, they're not. And they're calling him a racist and everything else. And my point was like, okay, here's another name for you. You know what I mean? It's like, we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about Rittenhouse, right? And the fact that he killed a chomo that was chasing him. And I've been over this a million times. He was chasing him. Rittenhouse was 17. Rosenbaum was 36. Had just got out the joint, okay? Threatened the kid the night previously. Said he was going to kill him if he saw him. He said he was going to fucking kill him if he saw him alone, okay? Number one, I mean, that's a threat. That's, something that should be followed up on, I would think, by police, if you know this character. This is a man that went away and he was charged with 11 counts of child molestation and rape of 9 to 11-year-old boys. Okay? We're talking about anal rape. We're talking about, numerous other things along with that. Just too disgusting to even fucking talk about, and I hate even saying that. This is the guy that BLM is going to get behind and say that Rittenhouse was a fucking racist. Now, the story that I have not heard, enough about, and I'm not in any way, I'm not going to trivialize this at all. I do not want to do that, because it's not right. But you had Ahmaud Arbory, if I'm saying that right, and if I'm not, I apologize, but he was a 25-year-old black gentleman that was gunned down in Georgia because he was seen, when he was on his run, he had stopped at a construction site where some things had apparently been stolen. And he was walking through this big house because he was fascinated by it. From what I understand, he was kind of, into architecture and stuff. And so he was on a run, just out jogging. And he does what any of us have probably done on a number of times. I mean, I'm a construction guy. I mean, there's been times I've walked on construction sites after hours, after guys have knocked off and stuff, and just walked around and looked because you're curious. I mean, I've been building stuff since I was, a kid. I mean, So, I mean, he walks on there, and these three white guys in Georgia, they decide to, we're going to go get him. And they chase him down, and they murder him. And the police show up, and Arbery's laying there on the ground, and he's still alive. And they don't do a thing. There's nobody trying to resuscitate him. There's nobody trying to stop the bleeding from his wounds. There's nobody doing anything. Okay, now these three men, all three of them got sentenced to life in prison. Now, as I said, I'm in no way trying to trivialize this man's death because it should have never happened. And I can't imagine what his family has gone through, what they are going through, what they're going to continue to go through, because there's never going to be any way to bring him back. And those three men doing life in prison isn't going to bring him back. There's no way. However, here's what we have to look at in this situation, okay? If we're going to talk about racial things, all right? We're talking about Georgia, a southern state, okay? Now, you can't tell me that there isn't a lot of racism in certain places in Georgia. I mean, just like anywhere, really. I mean, look at out here in Wyoming. I mean, I'm probably one of the few people in this state that would say that I do support the idea of Black Lives Matter. I do, and I don't think that you can say that all lives matter until Black Lives Matter. Do I think that all lives matter? I certainly do, but I don't think they do until Black Lives Matter. And you have to look at the disparity. You have to look at the criminal justice system. You have to look at what black people have been through, okay, and continue to go through. And you have to look at there's a whole number of things, and I really don't want to go down that route right now. But I don't necessarily I don't support the violence. Okay, I support Black Lives Matter in the way that, like a Martin Luther King. I mean, if you want to talk about the ultimate leader of BLM, it would be, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King. I mean, who else? I mean, you know, Muhammad Ali. You know, Rosa Parks. People like that. You know, not people that just want to go out and burn things down, and loot and riot and steal. And I mean, you know, there's billions of dollars worth of damage, and just to say that's okay, it's not. I mean, I do understand that there's a history in this country. You know, there is a history of some really bad shit. But there's also been a history of slavery in the entire world in recorded history of mankind. Okay? Does that make it right? Of course not. Of course not. I would never, ever stand behind something like that. I'm giving you fact, okay? Slavery has been a thing. Look at the pyramids. How do you think the pyramids were built? How do you think some of the greatest structures on this planet were built? I mean, you know, not just this country. I mean, and you're right. I mean, you know, a lot of this country was built on the backs of slaves, and it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it okay. Does it mean it didn't happen? No, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It did happen, okay? And we have to acknowledge that it did happen. And in order to keep things like that from happening again, we have to acknowledge that, and we have to say that, okay, this is what went down. Now, does tearing down a statue make it go away? No, it doesn't. But just looking at that statue and being reminded that that's where this country was at one point. I mean, I think that's a reflection, and I think seeing those things, it makes you realize that, hey, this is where we were. Now look where we're at. And let's try and get beyond where we're at now, and let's get to a place where we don't have to define one another by this. I mean, anymore when anybody's going to ask me what color I am, I'm just going to say ink. Might as well. It would be nice to not refer to my friends as my black friend or my Korean friend or and to not have me be referred to as, you know, your white friend, or it'd be nice to go into LA and not inevitably have that once a night thing where we go out or whatever, and it always happens. Somebody, what's up with the white boy? I mean, I'm just Mike, you know what I mean? And I mean, I don't see my friends. I mean, I see my friends as my friends. That they're my people. I mean, we're all brothers. We're all sisters, regardless. The people that aren't our brothers or sisters are the ones that are trying to keep us divided from our brothers and sisters. Those are the ones that aren't our brothers and sisters. The guys like this president that we have that said that he didn't want his kids going to school in a racial jungle. The guy that we have in office that told Charlemagne the God that if he didn't vote for him, he wasn't black. The guy that said that poor kids are just as smart as white kids. The guy that did a eulogy for Robert Byrd, the Grand Cyclops of the KKK. That is the guy, people, that you have elected. That's the guy. And I can't for the life of me, and I've asked my friends this, I can't understand for the life of me why the black community felt that they had to vote for this guy. I don't get it. The guy is a fucking racist. He's a bigger racist than fucking Trump. Way bigger racist than Trump. I mean, everything that Trump said was taken out of context. You know what I mean? I mean, when he said something, you know, the animals coming over the border, he was talking about MS-13. And for those of you out there that don't know, MS-13 is not a very, they're savages, okay? Let's just say that. And a lot of them, it's probably not their fault. They're also from El Salvador. Okay, they're not from Mexico. So let's get that straight. For those of you that don't know, okay, MS-13 is not from Mexico. MS-13 came out of El Salvador, okay? Now, we all can understand that's a different country, right? Okay. Now that we got that history lesson out of the way. So when Trump's talking about These are the guys that are coming over the border illegally. These guys are savages. They don't have the same outlook on the value of human life. They hack people to pieces. The cartel also does that. You know, they're vicious. They're very vicious. And I saw some footage of the smugglers dropping a 3 and a 5-year-old over the border wall. Dropping them unaccompanied. 3 years old and 5 years old. What is going to happen? I mean, how could you do that? I don't understand it. So those are, the big things I see with 2021, and it doesn't matter. Just because the ticker restarted the other day, it doesn't make these things go away. It doesn't give us a reset. It doesn't make everything just start all over again. Okay? You can have your resolutions. You can go to the gym for a week and dump a bunch of money into a gym membership and your gym clothes and new sneakers and protein supplements and this, that, and the other fucking thing. But the fact of the matter is that most of you, by the end of this week, you're going to be out of the gym. If I was to go over to the rec center right now, there'd be, not right now, obviously, they're not open, but if I was to go over there, tomorrow afternoon, the place would be packed. And it's going to be a bunch of fat slobs in there, milling about, using bad etiquette, sweating all over the machines, not putting weights away, and just fucking with those of us that, I spent hours in there a day before I got injured, and I don't have the money to, number one, I can't get my shoulder repaired, and I've got a fucking hernia that I don't have $25,000 to get a hernia surgery. I don't have the $20,000 to get my shoulder fixed, and I don't have any insurance because I can't afford it. Are you kidding me? You think I can afford $3,000 a month? I'm hardly putting it together as it is. Hardly putting it together as it is right now. Things are rough. They're rough for everybody. And yet we want to allocate trillions of dollars for this bullshit. And we have homeless people, okay? Number one, all right? Homelessness. This is my radar right now. Homelessness, okay? That is a problem. It's a big time problem. It's a humanitarian problem. We have people like this fucking Bill Gates who will not give the green light for vaccines to go to third world countries because they don't have the money. It's all about money, people. You got to realize that Big Pharma is making $1,000 a second between you got Pfizer, Moderna, and BioNTech. Those three, $1,000 a second. And they want to talk about giving us a $2,000 check. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many seconds are in a day? Do we want to do some simple math here? Because we can do that. Okay? We can do that real easy, all right? I have a calculator in front of me, and that's really something, huh? We got 60 seconds in a minute, right? Okay? All right. We got 60 minutes in an hour, right? And we also have 24 hours in a day. That's $5.184 million a day. They're talking about taking the price of these booster shots and upping them from $15 to upwards of around $150 to $175 for your booster. And they say, oh, you're getting it for free. You're getting it for free. That's what Biden says. It's free. It's paid for by us. We've paid for it over and over and over, year after year. We have paid for the suffering of millions of people. We've paid for the deaths of our young people to go overseas and kill brown people for what reason they know not, and to come back home. And we have how many veterans? How many every day commit suicide? Why do they do that? If the things that our troops were doing overseas were so noble and so outstanding and so worthy of the sacrifice that goes into these fucking wars for these fat cats to get rich, Wouldn't they come home to a reception as being heroes? Instead, they come home to a life of PTSD, difficulty getting a job, having a difficult time with relationships. I mean, there's a number of the homeless, and I'm not sure what the percentage is, but there is a percentage of the homeless that they're veterans, and they don't want to be inside. They would prefer to be out in the open on their own, because they don't trust anybody, they don't trust anything, they don't want to work there. I mean, you're talking about people that have had, have gone through some really traumatic shit, and then you got to listen to these fucking journalists talk about having PTSD from January 6th. Come on. Go to fucking prison. Talk about PTSD from being there. I mean, we've all seen the videos. You had that Buffalo guy wandering around in there. They were just people milling about. I mean, any of those buildings in D.C. too. I mean, if you're an American citizen, those are our buildings. Now, am I saying that it's okay to go in there and raise hell like that? No. No, I'm not. But you can certainly go in those buildings. I have. I've had a tour of the Capitol. I've walked all through there. It was really cool. It was a really great experience, and I thank my brother for taking my son and I on that trip. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it's really something to go walking through those buildings and to see all that and like the rotunda and the original Supreme Court and to see all those places that you've only seen on TV and just the history and just kind of the air of it that I mean, it's pretty cool. But we had to set it up and go in that way, and those people, they shouldn't have bum rushed it. But you know what else? That's what I was telling you. Look up Ray Epps. Look up Ray Epps. Because if you were to do that,
later it all comes back to bite them. Well, finally, the left is reaping what they sowed. Every liberal precinct in America is getting rocked. Two Hollywood actors in back-to-back weeks have dominated the news, mired in massive scandals. Jussie Smollett and Alec Baldwin, both Trump-hating narcissists, both reckless liars, bringing shame to their industry. One convicted of a race-baiting hoax, the other shot a woman dead on set. Both ran to ABC News and cried.
And there was a number of those states that they said they probably Trump's lost. I don't know.
I was talking to a friend, Ed. I said, I just want them to find them.
But ABC didn't save them. Both interviews blew up in their faces. And now they're facing national scorn and possible prison time. The media, another liberal institution's terminally ill and in no shape.
And he wants to come out and talk about gun rights. All right, so we've got this. Here we've got this.
An individual featured in videos calling for people to enter the.
I want you guys to take a look at this. This is going to be about Ray Epps. I'm going to turn my volume off here, and we're going to turn the monitor up here. Let me pull this up. All right, if you want to know about insurrection and January 6th, then this is something that you should definitely try and wrap your head around a little bit and come up with tell me what you think about it.
Capitol building, even before the January 6th Capitol riot, and was seen on the day, January 6th, ushering crowds into the Capitol building, has been identified by law enforcement as Arizona resident Ray Epps.
Ray Epps, an Arizona man seen in widely circulated videos telling Trump supporters on multiple occasions to go into the Capitol, also seemed to have acted on his own.
I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in to the Capitol.
Let's go! Unsurprisingly, he was on the FBI's most wanted list and was referred to as Suspect 16 for some time.
FBI WFO is seeking the public's assistance in identifying those who made unlawful entry into the US Capitol building on January the 6th.
But now, Suspect 16 has been scrubbed from the FBI website. Now, if you take a look at the Wayback Machine from archive.org, you can see that from January 8, 2021, all the way until June 30th, Suspect 16 was pretty clearly highlighted. But suddenly, on July 1st, he wasn't on the website any longer. Now, if he'd been arrested, he would still be on the website, just with arrested under his name, like others who have been apprehended. But he's not. He's just been scrubbed. This has prompted lawmakers to ask questions about whether or not there were FBI provocateurs who may have helped events on January 6th to go the way they did.
As far as we can find, this individual has not been charged with anything. Can you tell us, without talking about particular incidents or particular videos, how many agents or assets of the federal government were present on January 6th, whether they agitated to go into the Capitol, and if any of them did?
So I'm not going to violate this norm of the rule of law. I'm not going to comment on an investigation that's ongoing.
Now, the Capitol breach database has no...
Thomas Massie, in my mind, is probably one of the few that actually has anything worthy to say. And it's funny because it's him and Rand Paul right in that category in my mind. I mean, he's coming out straight up saying how many federal agents were involved. They did it in 1999 at the WTO in Seattle. I mean, that was incited by federal agents. I mean, there's times, and trust me, our government's done this, where they say, you know what? We see these people as a threat to us, and you know, I mean, you got people that they're volatile, right? Volatile individuals. Now, how much does it take to push a volatile individual? Now, when you're talking about people that have training in you know, manipulating people that have training in the psychology of people that have training in the way that people behave in groups, the masses are asses. I mean, Dr. Stephen Shaw was, you know, taking poli-sci classes back in the day. That was one thing, and I got to give him credit for that, because that was one thing that he said. He always said the masses are asses, and he's right. I mean, there's no truer statement. So, I mean, you can take a group of people, and when tensions are high and emotions are high enough, it just takes the right person to set that off. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened, and I don't know about what's up with this Ray Epps guy, but here's what I know is this guy, he is in Arizona right now. He's riding around on an 8-seat golf cart on his property where he has weddings every weekend. He doesn't want to talk to reporters. But he was there. And he was yelling and screaming, and he was the one that was there, and the night before this all, I mean, he was the one inciting this, and then for some reason he didn't go in. Why didn't Ray Epps go in? I mean, just on general principle as a man, I mean, if I'm rallying people to go do something, I mean, don't I need to be involved in it? Just as, I mean, you know, I mean, that guy looks like, number one, he's a big man, and from what I understand, he did play in the NBA, I guess, if that's the same, he's, you know, 6'6" or whatever, he's a big dude. I mean, are you going to go out there and you're going to incite all these people to do something, and then you're going to cower away and not go through with what you're telling them to do? I mean, to me, regardless of him being fed or not, and we know that he was in the Marines, but fed or not, just the fact that he sat out there and he riled these people up, and he got them all wound up and whipped into a frenzy, and I mean, he got these people wound. Did you see that young kid he was talking to? That kid, I mean, he was just like, let's go. I mean, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about people with that kind of a mentality. It doesn't take much to get them to do something stupid. I mean, I can get people to do something stupid anytime I want. I mean, it's real easy. It's not hard. I can do it in ways where they don't even know that I had anything to do with it. I can get people to do things they have no idea that I even was in, you know, I mean, it's not hard. People are stupid, you know. And so I'm not saying that these people weren't stupid for doing what they did. They were. It was very stupid. But to sit there as these reporters and say they have PTSD from from that shit. And for OAC to say that she was, people came in her office and she was like locked in a back room. They did not. Her office is not even connected. I mean, it is through an underground tunnel, but they didn't, the people that rushed the Capitol they didn't make it over there. I've been over there. And through, you got to get on a fucking, like a train. And then to see all the cops were, inviting, basically they were talking, yucking it up with these people. And the intelligence was out there that something like this was possibly going to happen. I mean, it's neither here nor there, but I'll tell you what, they're conflating this to be on a level larger than 9/11. And it wasn't. The one police officer that passed away, he had heart problems. And then you had a female that was, she was a veteran of the Air Force, and she went in through the window and got shot. Now, here's what I have to say about that. You play silly games, you win silly prizes. Bottom line. I mean, you do something stupid and your life can be taken away from you, and like that, gone. I don't think that she had any ill intentions. I think that it was just a fervor. It was a frenzy. It was people get whipped up and into an emotional, just, a little bit of insanity almost. And Trump never said anything about, doing what happened. I mean, you can go back and listen to the tape. He said, peacefully march up to the Capitol. Peacefully. I mean, that's what was said. It wasn't, it wasn't like the guy leading the pep rally going, we're going to kick their ass. It wasn't that. And like I said, and I've said it over and over again, I'm not a Trumpster. I'm just saying this all doesn't make sense. And it's just as stupid as arguing the Russia collusion thing. I mean, you look at the millions of dollars that are being wasted on this bullshit, and people are going hungry. People are shitting in the streets, living in tents on the streets, going hungry, getting diseases that have been eradicated from humanity for well over a century, like typhus, typhoid fever, the disease where rats eat human feces, fleas bite rats, those fleas get infected, they jump off the rats, they bite a human and pass that disease on. That's basically how the plague went around. Now, we had an incident a couple of years ago. Now I was going to go to a concert down in Denver at Dick's Sporting Goods, that stadium down there in Commerce City, and they have a population around there of prairie dogs that were testing positive for the Black Plague. Now, I started doing some homework on that and looking at it, and I saw that the CDC had done a simulation of what would happen if there was to be an outbreak of the plague. And guess where they did the simulation at? Denver, Colorado. Right there. And, my buddy Jared wanted me to come down, and I was stoked about it. I really was, because honestly, I haven't seen fish in years, and I just kind of got out of the scene because it got a little bit too weird, and I didn't want nothing to do with it anymore. But I was looking forward to going, and then I started looking at that, and I thought, you know what? I'm like, all it's going to take. I'm looking at the way they were talking about quarantines and this and that, and how everything would just be shut down instantaneously. Hospitals, overflowed, and it's online. You can look it up. You can look it up on the CDC website. Look up the simulation of outbreak of the bubonic plague in America, and you'll see. And I had to decline. I told my son Jared, I said, I can't. I said, I'm a single father. I said, I'm the only thing my kid has. And I'm like, I can't put myself in a position where I go down to Denver and say we're sitting there at that show having a great time, and there's some hippie out there in the lot, because they would allow camping out there, and there's dirt and shit all over around there, and there's a wildlife reserve. And so these prairie dogs are everywhere. I'm like, what happens when some guy's had too much acid and he goes out and decides he's going to eat a prairie dog? I was like, sure, that's far-fetched and outlandish. I was like, but it could happen, you know? And it's like, and look what's happened in this country with all this shit with the COVID. I mean, COVID's not even anything close to what the Black Plague was. I mean, the Black Plague compared to COVID-19, I mean, a whole lot different thing. Anyway, I digress. But looking at this thing from the 6th, and apparently CNN is going to have a deal day after tomorrow, you know, and they're going to get on there and they're going to grandstand about everything that went down on the 6th, and they're going to, you know, they're going to talk bad about all the Trump supporters that were there. And by the way, you got to look at this too. Those guys that have been locked up in that jail in D.C., trust me, people, D.C.'s jail is not someplace you want to be. I mean, I've been in some bad places, but that's not, nah. I mean, I talked to I was locked up with a lot of cats that were from D.C. and had come out of there. And, yeah, it didn't sound like any kind of place you want to be. And these guys, and here's what they said too, is that every night at 9 o'clock, all these cats, they stand up, and they salute, and they sing the national anthem. Now, I'm not all about the national anthem either, because if you've ever read the lyrics to the whole fucking thing, then you're going to know where I'm coming from. And I'm not all about flag worship. You know, I'm not. I mean, underneath everything, I'm an anarchist. And not an anarchist in the contemporary definition, okay? A true anarchist does not go out and burn other people's property. A true anarchist does not go out and do harm towards others because they're upset about something. Okay, that's not anarchy. Anarchy's base tenet is do no harm. You respect other people's person and you respect their property. You treat everybody as a sovereign being that has the right to do what they would like to. And that's what anarchy is. Anarchy is not Antifa. Antifa is not Antifa. They're not anti-fascist. They're as fascist as it gets. When you're stopping people on their way to work, beating on their car, trashing their cars, when you're beating people up and inflicting bodily harm on those that you don't even know. Like, look at, okay, pardon me, that was an unintended pun, but look at Andy No. I mean, they beat the shit out of him. Look up Andy No. Find out who he is. Do your homework on this shit, people. I'm telling you, I'm not coming from the right or the left. I'm coming right down the middle. I just call it how I see it, you know, and that's it. I mean, I couldn't give a shit one way or the other. Quite frankly, my opinion, it doesn't matter, but my opinion is that, you know, that we're in a lose-lose situation either way you look at it. Republican, Democrat, the system, it's all lose-lose for us, for the people. We spend our lives working shitty cheese jobs. We piss away our entire life. Life is precious. You know what I mean? Listen, man, life is precious. We don't have much of it. We're here. We're gone. We're a fleeting glimpse. We're already dead. I mean, look at it. We're already. I mean, in the eyes of time, you know, in history. I mean, we're already dead. I mean, it doesn't matter. And to spend our lives like this, I mean, it's, you know, and I guess the reason that I get off on these rants and stuff about this is just because I personally would like my son and his children to spend their lives a little bit differently. I mean, I'm over halfway there. I'm 45 years old, you know. I want to see the future generations wake up and do better for themselves. You know, I mean, we're living in a fucking oligarchy, you know what I mean? It's not a democracy. And as I've said over and over, democracy is not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Everybody has that word, like, okay, you say democracy, right? And it's way up here. You say anarchy, and it's a whole. What's worse? What's worse? Is it worse if, let's break it down, okay? Democracy, what's that mean? Rule by the people? Basically, majority rules, right? I think we can agree on that. That's democracy, right? Majority rules. That's why we have elections, right? However, majority doesn't rule because we've seen that people can win the presidency, people can win election, they can win that election without the majority of the popular vote, because what it comes down to is the electoral college, okay? Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't understand the concept, and there's their good and the bad things about it. The bad thing about it is that we feel that we have to elect this individual, right, to be the head guy, whatever. Why? Why do we need that? Do you need that guy? I don't need that guy. Do you need Joe Biden telling you what to do every day? Do you? Because if you do, then you and I, we really do have some serious differences of opinion on this. I mean, if you need Donald Trump to be in office, to make sure you're living your life like you want to live it, then we have some problems. If you need any of these 535 individuals, right? We got 435 reps and 100 senators, right? There's 535, and then we got the president and the VP, and then the cabinet. I mean, roughly, you're talking about a very small number of people that are running the majority of it. You're talking about like 1% of the people are running us, right? And then if you're in the military or if you're a police officer, now then you're taking orders from these people. What are you going to do when they tell you to go against the majority of the people? What are they going to do when they tell you to go against your neighbor? I mean, I know some really good cats out there in the police force. I do, and I'm an ex-con, and I'll say that I do. I know a lot of guys that are really good dudes, and that was the path that they chose. You know, it's not my choice. It's not my call. It's not my. That's their life. See, that's the thing. I mean, you know, and the guys I know that I'm calling good, they're good dudes because guess what? They're not going to go out and they're not going to fuck with you, right? And there's you know, I've run into guys in my, I don't know, I'd say, I don't know, maybe 1 in 10 times you run into an officer that's, people have bad days too. We all have bad days, so sometimes you run into one that maybe that's been a bad day. I tend to be fairly good at reading people and diffusing situations. You know, so, I mean, I'm not saying that we don't need, by saying I'm an anarchist, I'm not saying that we don't need, you know, some kind of you know, something out there to say that, listen, okay, if you violate a person's physical self or, you know, their property, then there's got to be some kind of, you know, a reckoning or a way to make some kind of a repayment for it, right? I mean, like, I look at my situation, what I went through. I did my time. I made everything right. I did what I was supposed to do, but I don't have any of my rights back. You know, and I don't think that's correct. You know, and in no way do I sit here and say that I don't take, you know, responsibility for my actions. I do. You know, I always have. You know, I mean, even with the circumstances being what they were, I still was there. I put myself in that situation. And I did what I had to do. But now I'm still going to pay for that the rest of my life. And I don't think that's right. You know, I think guys that once you know, and females, anybody that's had to do time. I mean, once you've done your time, you've come out, you've gone through your probationary time, you've done whatever's required of you, and you've been basically you get what you get is a paper. And this is what happened to me. I got an email, and it was from Nancy Friedenthal, And it said basically, Mr. File, you are, we've granted you early termination from your probation, and you're basically a free man. We wish you the best, but you're not a free man. I'm not. I live in a state where there's mountain lions on my back patio sometimes, and I can't have a gun. I never pulled a gun on anybody. And my co-defendant did. Not me. Just so happened it was my gun. But, again, I digress. I'm just saying that the whole idea of this, this political system, this is what pisses me off about it. And that's why I kind of this is my get down on it, is that we don't need it. That's why I always say hashtag walk away, because it's time we walked away from this shit. It's time we just turned our backs on this shit and walked away, because life is too short to deal with these fucking shitheads. And that's what they are. They're all shitheads. These media, these politicians, these assholes in power, and that's what it's all about. It's about power. These people are not about living a harmonious life, and just enjoying what little time we have here. They're not about that. They're sowing discontent. They're dividing us. They're causing all kinds of these racial problems and all this shit. Why the fuck is it that kids aren't racist? Why is it that when kids are born, kids are not racist until they get taught that shit? You're not Republican or Democrat until you're taught that shit. Until you're taught these ideals, these ideas, these fucked up things that you get inundated with your entire life. I hate that, watching what my kid goes through in school. I knew middle school was going to be tough, and I dreaded it, and seeing what these kids go through down there at that place in this little fucking town, I can't even imagine what it's like in a city. I can't even imagine it. The shit that I hear from my kid here in a town of 10,000 people up by Yellowstone Park is just fucking ridiculous. They got fucking furries in his school, okay? 6th, 7th, 8th grade furries. They have more rights than any of the other kids in there, It's all sit down, raise your hand. When can I go to the bathroom? They get 4 minutes between class. They march these kids around. They parade them around. That's what the education system is about. You parade these kids around. You make them get in line, raise your hand, bend the knee, ask permission. Shouldn't be doing that. Education should be about taking each, because every child is going to have a different potential. And you're going to have kids that aren't going to even fucking coincide or fall in line with what they're trying to do. You're going to have kids that don't want to sit in those aisles and raise their hand. Those are the free spirits. You look at the most influential people in this world, and they're all dropouts. Elon Musk, dropout. Bill motherfucking Gates, piece of shit, dropout. Einstein, dropout. The people that have made the biggest differences are the ones that have kind of given up on and walked away from society, pushed it off to the side and said, you know what? Fuck you. I have a vision. I have something to do, And I kind of feel like that as well. And I think maybe the thing that I have to do is maybe to talk to you folks out there and maybe get you to understand that you have what you need to do as well. And perhaps, punching the clock might not be it. Maybe taking up these positions and this and that. And I'm not trying to take up any position whatsoever. I'll speak out against, either side. I quite frankly think that that marriage is a sham. I think that's a joke. I think it's a license from the government. Now, why do we have to have a license to do everything? If I want to go catch a fish because I'm hungry, I should be able to go catch a fucking fish. You know why? Because I'm a human being on this earth. Why do if I'm broke and I have no money, right? I'm destitute. I get robbed and my house burns down and I got nothing and no place to go and I'm hungry. And this is a hypothetical, but let's say the thing I have left is I got a fishing rod left. Now I go out and I dig up a worm and I find a paper clip and some string or whatever. It's okay, let's say I do that. and I tie it on the end of a stick, and I go over to the lake up the way, and I'm starving, and I fling that thing out there, and I catch a fucking trout. And I pull it up on shore. I'm hungry, and so say I have maybe found a book of matches. I make myself a fire, and I take that stick that I caught that fish on. I clean that fish out with who knows what, a sharp rock, and I cook that thing on the fire that I made. And Game and Fish shows up. And next thing you know, now, not only have I been robbed and had my house burned down, I'm just trying to eat. And now I've got a fucking citation that I got to go to court for because I was just trying to subsist. That's where we're at, people. That's what this government has done. That's what's happening to us, okay? That certainly breaks it down to a, that takes it and puts it down into a condensed place. But if you look at it, why do I need to go get my driver's license on March 23rd of this year? I'm 45. I've been driving since I was 15. That's 30 years. Why? And the cost went up. So I got to go over there to that fucking building over there, and I got to give them $35 so I can get another plastic card that says I'm okay to drive. Why? I've been driving for 30 fucking years. Arizona's got it right. They give you a license. Well, why do you even need a license to do anything? Well, if you don't have that, they've inundated you with this shit. Why do you need a fucking fishing license? Why do you need a hunting license? Well, because some people go out and take too many deer. Yeah, guess what's going to happen to those people, all right? That, it's just like anything. The citizenry will take care of itself. If you got people that are getting out of line, they're going to take care of them. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't take the government. And the government fucks it up half the time anyways. It's like my friend, he was up hunting with his buddy, and it was getting on late, and they shot an elk. And this bear came at him and was not going to let up. Like, their lives are being, threatened by an animal. They shoot the bear. They get what they can pack out, and they take it out. They come down, they call Game and Fish immediately, let them know, hey, we shot the bear. They got to go back up there with Game and Fish to do an investigation. Why the fuck? That's taxpayer money. Why in the hell would that need to happen? Why? These dudes got attacked by a bear. They shot it. They didn't even kill the bear because when they went back up, they got attacked by the bear again. Taxpayer money, people. I'm just saying, these are all microcosms of the greater whole. But this is what goes on every day. And it's just a suck hole. And we're the ones paying for it. Ultimately, we're the ones paying for it. Our kids are paying for it. Our kids are almost $30 trillion in debt. Our kids are nearly $30 trillion in debt. We are at 29.5, and we are counting at this moment in time. Do you understand that? Does anybody out there have any way of wrapping their head around $30 trillion? Now, I don't know if that's going to focus in or not for you math magicians out there. That's a lot of zeros, and there's a 0.00 on the end because obviously I got to round it down to the, to an even number because a penny really means a lot. That's the other thing I'm wondering. When are we going to get rid of change? Why do we have change? I mean, I got pockets full of it. I got buckets full of it. What are we doing? What's a penny? We're talking trillions of dollars, and we still fucking deal in fucking pennies. Quarters, nickels, dimes. What? Even dollars. I mean, just make everything $5. Increments of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20. Get rid of the rest of it. I don't know. Agree, disagree? No contest? I don't know. I don't think it's a bad idea. Or at least just make everything $1. Everything's a dollar store times whatever. I mean, anybody find it crazy when you go and you, say you go to the car lot, right? You do a trade-in and you get yourself a new truck, and you sign your paperwork, and you sign your loan agreement or whatever, and anymore, a truck, you're talking, 60, 70 grand for a new one. is there any reason why the last 2 digits on that number should be a decimal point and then, cents? 27 cents, 63. What? Huh? Why? It drives me absolutely berserk when I go, and I try to pay for things in cash as much as I can. And a lot of times I'm just like, I don't even want that. Don't give me that coin. I don't want that coin. And really, I don't. What's the point? It's so dumb. We walk around with these shitty pieces of paper too. I mean, that's all they are. They're just shitty pieces of paper. I mean, we're going to be wiping our asses with them before we know it, with the way things are going. And that is what let's break it down right now. That's what it comes down to, is that we live our lives based on that. That's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad that everything that we want to do in life is based on that. And so what do you have to do to get that paper? You pretty much got to get over on somebody. I mean, everybody who's got that paper, you look at the people that got that paper, the people that got that money, the people that have those things that you're chasing after. Most of them got it not through being the most honest people on the planet. I mean, you can't tell me that. I mean, look into the history of Elon Musk. Do I think he's a smart individual? Of course I do. Have I read enough about his past to understand that he's been involved in some nefarious things that are definitely not, he's definitely walked on the backs of others. Basically, to get that paper, you got to walk on the backs of others. So to do what you want to do in life, to have that place where you feel that you're comfortable and you're okay, because let's face it, most of us that are, middle class is shrinking. Let's just say, for argument's sake, most of us that are middle class, we're looking at that upper class and we're always thinking, God, if I just had that, man, if I just didn't have to worry about this, if I didn't have to worry about that. And how many nights do you go to bed stressed? Over what? What's the biggest stress factor, people? It's that paper, right? I know it is for me. I don't stress about anything except that. Because let's face it, you got to pay the bill. You got to pay to be alive. That's what it comes down to. But we're all going to die. So if you got to pay you got to pay another person, right? So you got to pay another entity to be alive, right? But that person that you're paying, they're going to die. And they got to pay somebody else. But that other person's going to die, and we're all going to die. And so we live our lives in this rat race where we flip and flop around, and we do crazy things that we would not normally do. Would you go to work? And I'm asking this. I mean, some people would, I suppose. Would I? I do. I work every day, but guess what? I do what I want. I build what I want. I do what I want. The things that I do they come from in here. They come from vision. The things that I do, they come from thoughts of bettering myself. What I think is every day I want to learn something new. Not to make money or anything like that. I just want to learn something new because I like the idea of becoming better. I mean, I'm a total screw up. But I'm trying. But I don't punch a clock for anybody, and I refuse to, and I never will, and I don't care. I won't. But I guess what? I learn new things every day. I learn something new. Not because I'm doing it for somebody else, because I'm doing it for myself, for my person, to be a well-rounded person, to be able to get, and just the pursuit of knowledge. Because I'm fascinated with this world. I'm fascinated with what the fuck it is we're doing here. I'm fascinated with every aspect of this. I'm fascinated with society and politics and economics and engineering and mechanics and electricity and you name it. I will. There's not a single thing that comes along down my road, right, on a day-to-day basis. If somebody asks me if I know how to do it, that I say no to. And I've never done that. If somebody asks me and I don't know, I say yes. Because guess what? That's an opportunity. And I don't say yes because of most of the things I do, I undercharge for so much stuff, and I do so many things for free. And I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. I like honestly seeing people's reactions. I like creating something for somebody and taking it to them and saying, here. And they say, how much do I owe? I say, no. Can I hang this on the wall for you, or can I install this for you? Or, I just hope you enjoy it. That's it. It's like, the smile on your face is enough for me. And people people act like, what the fuck? You could be charging this and that and the other fucking thing. And it's like, sometimes I have to. Sometimes we all have to. And that's the problem, is because we have to do that. It's almost like you're forced. I feel like a lot of times, like, charging people money for something, it's almost like an act of like violence almost. It's like, here, I did this for you, but now you got to give me that paper. And I don't see how that makes any sense. I mean, it's like I would much rather live in a world where we bartered, traded. Be like, hey, I can do this for you. I see you've got that Ford truck out there in the back. Okay, you want cabinets built? I need a truck. Can we work out some kind of a trade? So the customer says, hey, I need this. I've got this. What can we work out? Even if it's just for a partial trade, I'm down to do it, because I feel like that's something that the government doesn't have their fucking hands on. I would much rather go do a job, build something for somebody, do something for somebody, and not have it be a monetary transaction. Now, I know that makes the government fucking nuts, and that makes all politicians crazy, that makes the bankers fucking nuts, and they don't like that shit, because all of a sudden now you're out of the loop. You're out of the system. I'm telling you, people, I mean, really, honestly, if you look at it, I mean, that's the best way to go. If you can barter and trade, I mean, honestly, I mean, this it's not even money, it's currency, okay? And look into that. I'm not going to get into that whole diatribe about money versus currency and the differences thereof. But I think we need to sit back and do some serious self-examination, and we don't need to sit here and worry about, now that it's the new year. I mean, we are a bunch of fucking ants hurtling through space on a fucking rock going around a 300,000 mile in diameter ball of fire. Okay? Wrap your head around it. What's beyond that? We're pretty infinitesimal. And I just feel like we're doing all of ourselves, we're doing us all wrong on the way that we're going about this whole thing. It's all about this race to collect all the gold, right? For what? To die? Why? To die. Because I want to be better than you. I don't want to be better than you. I don't want to be better than anybody. I just want to be me. Now, there's going to be different outcomes for every individual. But can you imagine if we all started at the same starting line and we were all afforded the same privilege to just be, and not to be told that you've got to get these grades, and for what? To learn what? To learn math? I mean, you look at it's just crazy. I mean, like, the greatest mathematicians ever in history were pretty much pariahs. Like, look at Pythagoras, right? I mean, and I'll tell you what, the Pythagorean theorem, hey, that's, if you're in my trade, that's something worth learning. And that's something that I use. And guys always ask me when I go and walk a job, and I'm, and we're walking a house or whatever, and dudes are writing down notes, and I'm talking to a homeowner, and I'm just walking. But I'm talking, and I'm walking, and I'm counting my steps. And I know that every step is 3 feet. And if I'm walking down the side of the house, and I look up at the eave line, and I count the boards going up, the siding, depending on if it's vinyl, cedar lap, whatever it is, I know the dimensions of it, right? So I'm like, okay, we're walking, I'm counting my steps, I'm counting the boards up to the, because you've got on a house, you've got what they call a gable wall. You know what I mean? You guys know what I'm talking about. any of you dudes out there in construction, any females out there in construction, anybody that's in architecture, engineering, anything like that, right? I mean, this is something worth learning in math, okay? I mean, we've got the gable end of a house, right? It's pretty simple. It looks like that, okay? And you've got your slats of siding, okay? So you're walking the side of the house. You're talking to the homeowner about what colors they want, okay? And as you're walking, you're taking your steps down this thing, okay? So let's say it takes me 10 steps, all right? How many feet is that? That's 30. And so I look up to this line right here, okay? And let's say that's 8 feet up, right? So, okay, I got 30 feet. I got 8 feet up, right? Okay. 240 square foot. I'm talking to him. I got my phone out. I got my notes up. Type in 240. I count the boards, and we're just going to say, hypothetically speaking, then we've got another 8 feet to here, okay? So what do we have there? Okay. We've got, this is math that works, okay? This is what our kids should be fucking learning. Shit like this, okay? And we've got 30 feet going this way, right? Okay. We're right there, right? And so we're going to say that this distance I don't know if anybody can see that, but we're basically talking another 8 feet, all right? So we're 8 and 8. So we're 16 to the peak, but we're 8 to where that triangle starts, okay? Now what do you do with a triangle? If you're going to try and figure out the area. If I got 240 square feet down below at the same distance in length and the same height, and I've got a triangle above it, then guess what? I got another 120 square feet up there. So I've got 360 square feet on that wall. And the whole time I'm walking and talking with the homeowner, I know what that is right away. The guys I'm walking with that are trying to get the job, these guys, they don't even know. They're writing it down on sticky notes and everything else. I'm just doing it in my head as I go along. Now, that's the kind of math that our kids should be taught. However, when I see my kid's math when he comes home, it's the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. And a lot of times he can figure it out in his head, and then he gets grades, and they're bad grades, and I'm looking at it going, what's the reasoning for this? And then I'll look or I'll call the teacher. Oh, he didn't show his work. What? That's the problem. That's the problem with education. When you need to show your work, guess what? That's where you learn to show your work. But up until then, I'm not losing out on a bid because I didn't show my work. I can leave that, that home site and have a number to the homeowner or the general contractor before I pull off the job. The other guys, they got to go home and sit there and crunch it and figure, I know my costs, I know my rates, that's the math that kids should learn. I'm not saying the kids got to work construction. I really hope that, I wouldn't wish that on anybody because it's been a hard life for me, and I'm beat up and it's taking its toll on me. But we need those people. I've met some of the smartest son of bitches ever in the construction field. There are some smart dudes out there, I'd like to consider myself one of them. I try to be. It takes all types, but the thing is what I'm getting at is if you're doing that for yourself and that, and you're doing it as a trade, then you're not going in, at 7 o'clock in the morning on a December morning, freezing your ass off, holding an ice cold nail gun, trying to stay warm, shivering your ass off all day, getting sick, having to go to work. You get sick. You know how many times I've had to go to work sick? I've not ever worked a job where I get sick days and fucking vacation pay and shit. And you call in sick, do you know what the ramifications are in the construction world when you call in sick? You're lucky to keep your job sometimes. When I was 19, I was running what they call a pogo whacker. I don't know if any of you, some of you cats out there know what I'm talking about. it compacts dirt in a ditch, or if you're, doing a concrete pad or whatever. They're a nasty, nasty little animal because they're heavier than shit and they are very unpredictable. And if they have any kind of a problem with the fuel system or anything like that, because let's face it, on construction sites, guys sometimes are not that good at upkeep of their equipment. So I'm 19, right? And I am running this pogo whacker up the ditch, right? So we're putting in underground water and sewer line in a golf course in Fernley, Nevada, out in the desert. About 110 average per day during the summer. Not fun. Not fun. And so I'm running this thing, and it's got carburetor problems, right? So it's getting fuel, it's not getting fuel. And it's jumping up and down. And I'm going down the ditch, right? And the thing jumps up off the sidewall of the ditch, comes down, hits my foot. It takes the steel toe of my boot, and it basically crimps it around my big toe, right? I mean, I didn't want my boss to even see what had happened because I knew how pissed he would get. So I acted like nothing happened. Just kept going. And I'm in pain. And I get home, take my boot off, try to take my boot off. Steel toe is crimped over onto my toes. I can't get my boot off. My boot the blood has wicked all the way up my sock, up my leg. I know it's a fucking scene from Jumanji down there in that fucking work boot. I got to go out the garage and get a pair of pliers. And I got to bend that fucking steel toe off of my foot just to get my foot out. And I'm terrified to even look at it. I got no toenail left on two toes. I've got a huge laceration going all the way across my foot. I've been out there in the Nevada dirt working a 10-hour day. This happened first thing in the morning. So I'm out there in the dirt all day, right? So my boots are full of nasty fucking dirt. And the thought of getting in the fucking shower is just fucking terrifying. So I go grab a bottle of vodka, of course, and I dump a little bit of it on my foot. And fuck, that stings like a son of a bitch, Mind you, I'm 19 at the time. Get in the shower. I'm fucking screaming. I get out. I'm still bleeding. Probably needed to go to the hospital. I don't have any insurance. I got nothing. I'm a 19-year-old kid making $13 an hour, working 4 to 5 to 6 10-hour days a week out in the desert. I go get some athletic tape from whatever the fuck, Walgreens or whatever was up the street from my house there in Reno. Wrap my foot up. Go back to work the next day. Go back to work the next day after that. Every day I go to work, keeps getting worse. Keeps getting more infected. Gets infected to the point where I'm damn near septic and I can't fucking even walk. And the boss man, my foreman, finally he gets out of his excavator because he's, what the fuck is wrong with you? I said, Johnny, about last week, I was like that pogo, that pan whacker. I said it jumped off the side of the ditch on me and landed on my foot. And that was the only pair of boots I had, so they were pretty much cut, and I had to bend them back into shape. And I showed him my foot, and he goes, he was like, what the fuck? He was kind of pissed, and he said, let me see it, because he hadn't seen me behave that way. Like, I was always trying to bust my ass, and I said, okay. So I sit down on the side of the ditch, and I take my boot off, and it was seeping through pus, everything. It was nasty. I had my foot bandaged up, but there was blood and pus all through my sock and my boot. He just goes, what? And I take my sock off, and he sees it, and he goes, Jesus. And I went and I got to go to the doctor, those are the type of jobs that I've worked my life. Places where they send you up and you got 2 40-foot ladders chained together. Anybody ever been up on a 40-foot ladder? It's terrifying. I will not bid a job without a man lift on anything over 28 feet. So these are the kind of things that I've done in my life. These are the kind of jobs I've worked in my life. Jobs like that where you for the minimal amount of money, I mean, for $15 an hour, you put yourself up there, you're hanging off of fucking rafters and trusses way the fuck up in the air, you got no harness on. If you ask about wearing safety equipment or anything like that, or getting a harness, they fucking call you a pussy. I mean, and guys, you know what I'm talking about. All you fellas out there, and there's females that work these jobs too. I'm not just fucking, but the majority of the guys, majority of people that work these jobs are men. I've done it my life. So I'm just saying, I've not worked with a lot of females out there. A couple here and there. But a lot of times the females aren't expected to go up on, I mean, I've watched a buddy of mine fucking, I mean, he was up on the top place of a 16-foot fucking wall, and we're flying trusses. And he's up there on that wall, and he misses, and he shoots a 16-penny nail with a Senko gun through his fucking boot and nails his foot to the fucking top plate of the wall, 16 feet up. And he looks down at me with this look of horror, like. And I look at him and I said, well, that's, you know, he's way up there. I'm like, that sucks. He's like, what do I do? I said, well, you got a cat's paw in your back. He's like, no, I left it down. I said, and I reached in my nail bags and I chucked one up to him. And he goes, what do I do? I said, you got to fucking, I said, either you pull your foot off and you leave a chunk of it sitting there. I said, or you got to put that cat's paw in there and wedge it against your steel toe in that boot, and you got to pull that nail out. And then go get a tetanus shot, you know. And he did, but he didn't go get that tetanus shot till after work. He worked the rest of the day. Boot filled with blood. How many of you guys out there got stories like that? I can tell you many of them where I've had a boot full of blood and finished the day. And for what? For what? To make 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour? And then to have that 15% of that money go to fucking pieces of shit like these assholes in Congress and the government. I mean, we you know, nobody's out there doing it for fun. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's out there doing it for fun. We don't go out there and we don't go out there and we don't do these jobs day in, day out for fun. Now there are people. I'd like to do a study. I'd like to find out like how many people actually look forward to their jobs. And I'd be willing to guess that these would be individuals that are doing what they want to do on their own time and on their own terms. Now, when I build something for somebody, whether it be, you know, say a cabinet or a table or something like that, I like to go in and I look at their space. And I tell them, like, I don't want any specs or any concept of what you want, but I'm looking at your home, I'm looking at your decor, I'm looking at you, and I'm putting something together in my mind that I want to make for you. And when I show up with it, if you don't like it, you don't have to pay for it. I love doing that. That's what I like doing. I mean, I gain pleasure out of that because the whole time that I'm doing that, I'm thinking of that person, I'm thinking of that family, I'm thinking of that couple or that lady or I mean, whoever the people or individuals might be that I'm making something for. It makes it into like art, and it also makes it into doing something that that you're creating for a person and that nobody else is going to create. It's like you're doing something that nobody else can recreate. I use a lot of reclaimed materials and shit like that. I mean, especially with the cost of lumber these days. But I love taking old shit and turning it into something new and then making it right, and that like to where it looks, I mean, I love taking that stuff where it looks good. And I mean, I'm looking at everything that I have in this studio right now, right? Like all these frames behind me. I mean, the desk I'm sitting at, the table over here, the table to my left, my bar top, my cabinet, all my picture frames. I built the wall behind me. I mean, I love that. I like doing that. But when you're doing it for somebody else every day, day in, day out, getting beat the fuck up, and then you end up like me at 45 years old. I mean, that's not that old, but it's older than I ever thought I'd get to be. But I mean, it hurts every morning. I mean, I have a hard time getting out of bed. I really do, because it's painful. That sitting up. I mean, it's excruciating. You know, and it usually takes a long hot shower and a number of Advil and, You know, I mean, it gets worse every day. I can't feel my feet. I haven't felt my feet in almost 3 years. I'm not diabetic, but I've definitely got peripheral neuropathy. My feet are turning colors. You know, I mean, it's from a lifetime of putting those boots on every day. Is what it is. I mean, I'm not sitting here bitching or complaining about it, but that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I guess get a little bit honest with everything. I enjoy speaking and talking about things, and you know, trying to go down a different path for the rest of my years, because I really don't want to end up being one of those dudes that's just absolutely broke down. I mean, it's sad when you got to work with one of those cats that's, you know, I mean, I've worked with a lot of guys like that. They're 60s, 70, just beat down, but they come in day after day and they've been doing it their whole life. They know nothing else. And you just go, God damn, I don't want to be that guy, you know? I remember back in the day when I was living in Seattle, I told my ex-girlfriend, I said, you know what? I said, if I wake up one day and I'm 45 and I'm still doing this shit, I said, remind me to fucking shoot myself. Well, I guess I do what I want now. And I really don't give a shit about the money or anything like that, you know? I don't care. Because I realize that it doesn't mean anything. And, you know, there's more to it than that. There's more to life than the money. Sure, we got to have it because society deems it so. But I'd encourage all of you to maybe take a step back and reevaluate. And maybe, you know, do a little deep think on this whole thing that we're fucking doing here. Because, I mean, we waste our best years just, you know, beating ourselves up mentally, physically. You know, I mean, think about how many, I mean, anybody who listens to this podcast, which I don't have a lot of people listen, but for those of you that are listening, think about how many relationships that you've had in your life that have been fucked up because of work. You've been with somebody that you cared about, somebody that you loved, and because of your obligations to work, it caused a fight. Because that somebody just maybe wanted to spend a little more time with you. You know? I mean, you think about things like that. And then you go, damn, was it really worth it? Was it really worth that shit? God damn, you know? Just some thoughts. I don't know. I guess every day that I'm alive, I learn more and more about what I don't know. That I don't know shit. I don't know why we're here. I don't know what this is all about. I don't understand why we have people that don't have homes. I don't understand why people starve. I don't understand why we have countries that are full of disease and misery and genocide. And I don't understand why we go bomb brown people for fucking oil. And I don't understand why we hate people because of the color of their skin or because of the hat they wear or because of what book they read or, you know, the magic man that they worship. I don't understand it and I don't get it. I don't understand why we spend our lives trying to, it's always the next thing. It's like, if I do this, then I'll be happy. If I do this, right? Like, if I get these grades in high school, then I can get into college. And then if I get through college, then I can get this shitty piece of paper. And then I can go get this job. And then I can spend the next 40 years of my life, you know, trying to repay the $200,000 in debt that I went into at 19 years old, 20 years old, 21, 22, whatever, to get this job. And then I'll be happy. Guess what, motherfucker? Now you're in your 60s. What do you get to retire at now? 60, 67? I can tell you right now, the shape I'm in at 45, and I'm in fairly decent shape. I've cut a ton of weight. I don't eat a bunch of shit, you know. I mean, I still have my cocktails, you know. I don't drink like I used to. I don't do drugs. I don't do the shit that I used to do. You know, I mean, at 6 feet, 185 pounds, I'm not bad. But the way I feel, I tell you what, at 65 years old, that's not going to be the time that I'm going to be wanting to. I don't want to be retired at that age. And then what? What do you do then? You beat up. You spent your whole life just, you know, crushing your body, being beat to shit, and then what? You're going to get this shitty little fucking Social Security check, $1,200 a month. if that. I mean, it probably won't even be around for us. I mean, there's something better out there, and there's a better reason for us to be here than this. I mean, and I don't know. It's a crazy thing to think about, I guess, but it's just, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Just some reflections on the whole thing. But I'm no philosopher either, you know. I'm just a useful idiot. And if Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper hadn't taken that name for their podcast, I think I'd have used it for mine. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. Think about it, comment. If it so entices you, it certainly helps me out when you hit that button. You know what I'm talking about. I hate even saying it because I don't want to be that guy. But if you subscribe, it definitely helps me keep doing this. Not that I'm going to stop doing it, but the more listens, the more likes, the more subscribes I get, the better it is. And if you all are doing something like that, I found myself that if I get any value whatsoever out of anything, like I'm watching these two guys on a freaking weird ass teeter-totter trampoline thing that they can't. I want to smash it and give them a like, because you know what? It's going to help them out. So by doing that, you know, if you find any value in this, and maybe you don't, maybe you do, I don't know. I hope you do. That's all I'm trying to do. Add value. Make people think a little bit about what's going on, what we're really doing here, how we're spending our lives. And you know what? Here's what I'm going to leave this with. Being the new year, I would challenge anybody who listens to this, that you think of every morning that you get to wake up as a new year. Don't worry about dates. Don't dilute your mind with that shit. Wake up in the morning and think, you know, I'm fortunate. I try and do that through all the hurt and everything. Once I get up, I try and you know, have that mentality of being just grateful. And I am grateful. I'm very grateful. I'm fortunate. I'm grateful for everything that I have. I mean, there isn't any way that I would ever thought that I'd be sitting here at this point doing something like this. So I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for all you. And, you know, hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you want to be on here. I'm doing my best to get back to people, but it's slow going because I've had a lot of problems with software, hardware, cameras, microphones, equipment, this, that, and the other thing. So it's been a trial, but you know, nothing good comes easy. And it's just another example of learning something new. So, but there's a lot of times that I put out a shitty podcast that sounds weird and fucked up, and I hope I don't do that anymore, but I know I'm going to. And I don't care. I'm fine with embarrassing myself. I don't mind. I've been doing it my whole life. So, you know, scared money makes no money. And I don't even give a shit about the money. I don't care. Rather do something that makes somebody else have a better day, better, you know, a better life, better outlook, whatever, you know. It's all about being better every day, and then by being, you know, I'm not talking about success, and I mean being better as a human being. I'm not talking about money or anything like that. Just being better, being a better person, influencing somebody else's life, making a difference with somebody else, making somebody else smile. You know, wiping the teardrop off somebody's eye, and you know, letting them know that they're all right and they're going to be okay, and that, you know, they can smile and it's going to be cool. You know, that's what it's all about. Those are the things that mean stuff. And that's, I think, why I get so pissed off about the politics and all this shit, because it just in my soul and my inside me, it really irritates me, because I feel like you got a faction of people that are trying to steal our joy. That's what it comes down to. It's not even about the money. It's about our joy, our happiness. And and our ability to walk through this life being human. You know, I mean, we've almost been turned into these cyborg robots. So anyway, we'll get going on that. We'll save that for another conversation. I hope you all are well. Do no harm. In all things, be kind. Love one another, because I love all you. All right? So, stay up, and out we go from the Mike Files. This is Mike File, 52 miles east of Yellowstone Park. Holla.
Sitting next to you, yeah, baby. Hey, beautiful, how you feeling tonight? In a crowd, you're the only one inside. And me and my brothers are feeling alright.